everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sandra Park, I'm an engineer and a financial coach, and today I'm going to talk about how I travel without the stress of debt or with credit cards. Last year in 2024, I took a long-awaited trip that had always been on my bucket list. I actually always wanted to go to Italy, and I know it's very cliche because it's the most visited country in Europe, but back in 2024, I planned a trip to Italy, and due to circumstances outside of my control, of course it got canceled. So I was devastated. But last year, I finally took that long-awaited trip to Italy, and I loved it, and I want to talk about how I plan, research, and coordinate for these trips and how I do it debt-free without any credit cards. First, let's get into the planning part of it. One way that I help plan my trips is I use Google Flights. It's an awesome website to use. Maybe they have an app, but check it out. You can also set up alerts for different flights you're looking into. I also like seeing how it compares the price of that trip, and it lets you know if it's a good deal or not. When I tend to do my research for travel, I always buy the flight first. I don't know if everyone does that, but I like to know I have the flight there and back, and then I worry about the rest of the parts of the trip. So explore using flexible dates if you are flexible with your travel. It really does help out a lot if you have some flexibility with where you can travel and when you can travel, and use the Explore feature. Set up those alerts for price drops, and then compare different airlines for different deals. And like I said, just for me, I like knowing I have the flight already set up and booked before I book out the rest of the trip. Another fun thing you can do is I like to subscribe to different emails and different alerts for travel deals. So if you haven't heard of this one, a coworker told me about this many years ago, is TravelZoo Top 20. And whether you actually book the deals through there or you just get the emails and you look at them and you get sources of inspiration, I like being on that email list, and sometimes I get ideas about different trips I want to look into. I actually have purchased some of the deals from there. It's a legit website. There was a time where I knew I was going to speak at a conference in Chicago, and then I saw a deal for a Chicago hotel, and I booked through TravelZoo, and it turned out to be a really good deal close to the conference that I was already going to anyways, so it just kept it top of mind for me. It's just a lot less of me spending my spare time researching, whereas I'm already getting things coming to my email that might be interesting to me. Another great website I like to use is the Going Flight Deals, and I've actually booked some pretty good flight deals off there. They just let you know. They're curating different deals of flights, and you customize it for where you live. So it's flights out of the city of where you live, and I've booked some good deals on there. The link is usually to a Google Flights where you can do more research on the flight itself. And like I said, some of this is more for inspiration, because for some of you that say, oh, I don't know where I want to travel, sometimes these deals might inspire you, because as much as we want to travel to where we want to go, sometimes you might just jump on a really good deal and now you're like, oh, I've never been there. I would like to go. I see this really great round trip flight to a city I've never been to. It might inspire you to book more travel. And also, I just want to point out, when you see some of these deals, it's important to maybe jump on them rather quickly because they don't exist forever. So another thing that's very important, which I'm going to talk about soon, is being in a very good position financially and having money set aside to travel. So when you do see these deals, you can jump on them. For instance, years ago, I remember seeing a round trip flight to New York, and it wasn't an ideal time of year. I think it was in January or February, but I went to New York super cheap with my son. It was our very first time. It was after a snowstorm. It was very cold, but just had extra money sitting there, and having the freedom and time in our schedule meant that we could take a quick trip to New York that we had never been to. Also, in your research phase, you want to think about the goal of your trip. So think to yourself, is this a relaxing vacation where you want to sit by the pool with a book? Is this a mountain getaway where you're in a cabin? Do you want to go to a cold place? Do you want to go to a warm place? Do you want to go to a busy city? Do you want to go somewhere that's more of a rural getaway? So consider the type of experience you want to have, because that can make a difference in the type of vacations that you book. Sometimes a lot of the deals always seem like they're coming for all the bigger cities, and that's fine for people who like big city destination type of vacations, but that might not be what you're looking for, or you might want to balance it out throughout the year where you have some that are slower, more rural destinations, maybe phone free, and you can be out in nature more, combined with some trips where you're more enjoying city life and restaurants and museums and maybe visiting friends and things like that. So let the trip's purpose guide your destination and the itinerary. Now let's get on to budget and finances, which I think everyone is interested in. So how do I do all this debt-free? Well, I always have an ongoing sinking fund, and it's labeled vacation. So that savings account is an account where I just save up for vacation. So I have a separate savings account. I've actually labeled it vacation. It's at an online bank account. It's a high yield savings account. And every single month in my budget, I have an amount to go into there automatically. So that account is accumulating every single month. And I like to let that sit there and accumulate and earn money. It's earning a tiny bit of interest, right? And I know for me personally, maybe like a domestic vacation, domestic getaway is X amount of dollars. Let's say it's $2,000. But if I want to do more like an international vacation, that might be $5,000, $6,000 or more. And I'm letting that accumulate so I can pay for these vacations in cash. That trip does not follow me home with credit card debt or payments that I have to pay way after. I actually do have a story of, I took a trip to Disney World one time and I did it all on credit cards, and it really sucked having to pay for that trip months and months later, way after the magic of Disney wore off. So don't let that trip follow you back home. The other way I budget for my vacations, and I've adjusted this over the years, and it might just be because I'm more of an experienced budgeter, but I don't budget out the entire trip dollar for dollar. What I do is I have a budget for the trip, right, that I'm actually going on, not just booking car, hotel, and flight. I'm talking about my day-to-day expenses on the trip. So I'm talking about eating out, I'm talking about maybe parking fees, museum entrance fees, souvenirs, things like that, right? And I do a very loose, rough budget. So I'll do a little bit of research, but after being a pretty traveler and knowing about how much I spend when I'm on travel, I know about how much I'm gonna spend. And then I highly suggest, especially if you're new to this, you might wanna double it just to be on the safe side. Because let me tell you, stuff just when you're on vacation. You forget items that you thought you packed. There's unexpected fees. There's extra surcharges. People get sick. You might have, a medical bill on vacation. So that's what I suggest. I used to do this very strict budgeting even when I was on vacation and tracking all these expenses and saving receipts. But now over time, I've kind of realized, I save all these receipts, am I really gonna contest, I bought in Paris? No, I'm probably not gonna contest all these international charges, and I think when you're on vacation, you should be a little more freewheeling with your money. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to budget day to day in every single expense. You're at this place maybe first and only time in your life. So why not enjoy a bit? And this is part of what having money and budgeting and being diligent with your money is about, so that you can live a little more freely while you're on this vacation. Another tip I'd like to point out is make sure you check your debit card also takes care of international fees. If you don't have a debit card that doesn't do it, of course, maybe you could use a credit card, but double check if you're traveling internationally, do you get charged for international fees? You will get charged in every single transaction in international fee, and that really adds up, especially if you're in a major city or country that takes a lot of credit or debit, MasterCard or Visa, right? And you don't want those fees on every single transaction. So research these travel-friendly cards with no foreign transaction fees. The way I take care of currency exchange, I don't exchange any currency before I go on the trip. I usually just wait until I get there, and I usually do it throughout the trip. I only convert a small amount of money into the currency that's at destination, and I just do small amounts because of course there are some vendors maybe that don't take Visa or MasterCard, and you want to be able to pay them. When I took a gondola ride in Venice, they actually do not take credit or debit. You have to have cash for that purchase. So there will be times that it will come up that you will have to spend some cash. The third point I would like to bring up is coordination. Decide who's going on these trips. One of my goals in life is to take a solo international trip. I've not done it yet, but I'm working up to it. I really want to do it someday. But this is where you need to start looking at everyone's schedules. If you have kids, you need to look at their times off from school. If you have people that are working, how much time do they have off? And when is a good time for them to go on vacation with you? Are you traveling with these family or friends? And make sure you talk about everything about the trip, but are there nights where we're all gonna do dinner together? Are we gonna do activities and split off and do separate things? Sometimes it's good to have a combination of alone time and then family time, and then maybe just time in a smaller group, but you have to kind of craft your vacation and decide that with the people that you're traveling with. Also, another thing that I think many of us struggle with is we have work travel, or we have travel for conferences, or we have travel related to things that are more for our own personal development. And there's nothing wrong with that, but make sure as you're planning your travel out for the year, you have some travel interspersed for spending time with friends or spending time with family or some solo travel. Make sure all your travel isn't just related to work or some type of personal development or conference. Because I know it can be easy to say, well, that's my travel for the year, but some isn't as refreshing or may not fulfill all your purposes if it's always for another purpose. You can use tools like maybe shared calendars to look at when other people are free for this travel. And I will also say part of the fun of traveling is the anticipation leading up to the travel. It's the planning, it's the talking about it, it's looking forward to having that time off that I think a lot of people look forward to. Also, I wish I had done this because last year I took my very first trip to Chicago, and it was for a conference, and because I was a bit nervous about speaking at that conference in front of a lot of people, I didn't really plan very much for before the trip or after the trip. I actually did fit in some fun things the day before with someone I met up from LinkedIn the day of the conference, and we had a really fun time. But looking back, when I was driving around Chicago a bit, I'm like, oh, there's so many nice things to look at and do and places to eat. I did not even realize because I was so preoccupied with just the trip. So maybe also blend in some personal along with these work or business or conference trips, whether it's time before or time after, some time to sightsee in the city, spend time with people that, or not, that are at that conference or at that destination. But that's one thing I wish I had done a little more of. Next year when I go to a conference, it's going to be in New Orleans, Louisiana. I do plan to fit in some time before or maybe after or both to explore the city of New Orleans. It's not that I've never been there. It's just if I'm already there for something else, I might as well plan in some fun things. There's going to be a lot of fun people there, so I get to explore the city in a new and different way with different people. So I definitely plan to do that. So my big 3 points, we're talking about planning and research, which you always need to do for every trip, the budget and the finances of every trip, and then making sure you coordinate. You're ready to start planning your next trip, and if you like this video, please subscribe and share your dream destination in the comments. If you need help with budgeting, please feel free to reach out, because I'm a big believer that you can make your dreams happen. And if travel is a huge priority for you, you can plan for this and you can do this debt-free. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.